Before I say anything on this story, I want to stop and speak directly to my Canadian viewers. I know you're out there, you comment on all the videos, and sometimes you bash me for being another American that's late to the party, but you guys are among the most loyal, polite, and correct viewers of our show. And now I've been instructed by the United States Commerce Secretary to inform you that, quote, you suck, end quote. That's what he said. That's not what I said.
Good for them. That is like the worst strategy I've ever heard. They suck. Look.
He said that on camera at a Semaphore Economic Summit in Washington, Friday, April 17th. And I, on behalf of my entire country, would like to say to you, Canada, we're sorry. We didn't mean it. He doesn't speak for us. We love you. And also, if you could find room under that maple leaf for, like, I don't know, maybe 300 million more people, just look at a list, just in case. If you have room for one more on your bandwagon, I'm ready. Might move up north. Just accept me, please. But look, here's what happened with Howard Lutnick, Epstein's best friend. He was on stage at Semaphore World, the World Economy Summit, and he was asked about Canada's former trade negotiator. And that's the guy who suggested that Canada should wait out the USMCA renegotiation because time is on Canada's side, which it is. And Lutnick said, and I'm quoting directly from the transcript, that is like the worst strategy I've ever heard. They suck. We are a $30 trillion economy, right? End quote. They suck. 2 words from the Commerce Secretary of the United States about one of our closest allies at an economic summit on camera. Now, here's where I think this gets genuinely perfect, because the Commerce Department knew that this was bad. They issued a clarifying statement right away. And the statement, it's better than the original insult. And I'm going to read it to you verbatim. Quote, Secretary Lutnick, describing our unfair trade imbalance with Canada, explained how Canada sucks off of our $30 trillion economy. End quote. Sucks off of our $30 trillion economy. That's their clarification. That's their sanitized version. That is what they release in writing on purpose to clean up the you suck situation. When you read that, that's worse than what he actually said. I mean, look, Howard Lutnick, he looks like a boiled hot dog wearing a suit. An expensive suit, and the suit's doing most of the work. But every time he opens his mouth, the suit, it files a grievance with HR because he is sick of having that boiled hot dog inside of him. And I want to remind everybody who this guy is again. Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary of the United States, the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald, and Donald Trump's Epstein bestie. This is the man who took his own children to Jeffrey Epstein's island. And he's confirmed this. It's not a rumor. He said it. So when Howard Lutnick is the one telling you that Canada sucks, that Canada is running the worst trade strategy he's ever heard of, that Carney is nuts for going to China, I want you to hold in your head the image of this man in a suit, boiled, talking about Canada, while also being the guy who took his children to Epstein's island. And look, underneath the insult, the actual thing that Lutnick is mad about is that Canada's Prime Minister, Mark Carney, is publicly playing the long game, waiting out the Trump administration and succeeding, going to China to talk about selling Canadian goods there, and letting the USMCA review date, July 1st, be the negotiating fulcrum instead of panicking to meet Trump's demands now. That's what Trump wants. He wants panic. Quote, Carney has a problem with us. He gets on a plane and he goes to China. Does he think the Chinese economy is going to buy his stuff? End quote. That's what Lutnick said, mocking Carney for looking elsewhere because we're being bullies. And the answer to that question is yes, Howard, yes. Mark Carney does think the Chinese economy is going to buy his stuff because Carney has a $408 billion trade relationship to protect with China, and because China is a market. And because when the American Commerce Secretary calls your country something that rhymes with ducks on live TV, you diversify your supplier base. Look, subscribe. I'm just one man on a camera trying to rebuild this channel, and I've got a great team behind me, but I need you to subscribe, like, share, and especially share some thoughtful comments to our beautiful Canadian viewers. And to our Canadian viewers, hi, I see you. A lot of you have told me in the comments that you're done with the United States, that you're done with me, you're canceling your Disney vacation, you're boycotting Kentucky bourbon, rightfully so, and that you're buying Canadian, that you no longer see the border the way you used to. And I want to say to you, I understand. Because Canadians, you didn't leave us. We drove you out. We drove you out with tariffs. We drove you out with the guy who talks about Canada being the 51st state. We drove you out with Howard Lutnick sitting at a summit and telling the world you suck. So, you know what? To our viewers in Canada, good on you. Do what you have to do. And again, if you have room on that bandwagon, a lot of us are looking for a spot. Just saying.